Jennifer here from Belladonna's Botanicals, and this is part two of our video on. Hold on, I'm working on two entirely different computers here. Let's see, what was it called? Over 100 herbs you can use instead of white sage, part two. So in part one, we went over everything from letters A to D. I'll link it below so you can watch that. One of the videos the reason I was making this is because, hi, I'm an herbalist and I have a document here with lots of things that we can use instead of white sage. And I don't particularly like white sage, so I don't really use it. I stopped using it in products years ago. And there's a lot of people who don't use it for ethical purposes, whether it is for the environmental impact, whether it is for, when indigenous creators and people are saying, hey, maybe don't use this, listen, because it is over harvested a lot. It is illegally harvested. So what I want to talk about here, starting with letter E, is different things you can use for instead of white sage for anything protection, whether you're doing a smoke cleansing, whether you're doing a protection ritual, whether you're doing protection bowls or amulets or talismans, anything related to protection magic, you can use any of these herbs for in place of white sage. So without further ado, let's get going. So we're going to be starting with echinacea. So echinacea, again, really good for protection. It is also good for healing. So if that's an area within protection, like you want to help someone heal, but also protecting them from harmful influences elsewhere, you could do that. It's good for money drawing. Some people will do wealth protection. This is a good time to do that. So and also you can use it as an altar offering. Like if there's particular spirits you work with for protection, offer them some echinacea versus white sage. Next up, this one I don't use a whole lot. And honestly, I'm trying to remember which. I use it one spray. It's Alpine Edelweiss or Edelweiss. So that one is good for protection and invisibility. So like, I think it's the invisibility cloak spray that I make, which I actually have to make another batch of right now, soon. So I use it for that. So an invisibility cloak does not literally make you invisible, but it's kind of to shield, like for people trying to do tarot readings on you, scrying, remote viewing, astral crap, that kind of stuff that if you're using Edelweiss, like that's something, it's not actually very easy to find, but occasionally you can get some, or like often what I see is Edelweiss for like pressed flowers. So if you got that and made a little bundle and hung it above your door, you could put it on your altar, something like that. That's a very niche use for it if you're doing like an invisibility cloaking so people can't maybe access you to do magic on you or any kind of energy manipulation, because there are people out there that do that stuff. So the next one is, I believe this comes out of the Santeria tradition, but correct me if I'm wrong, is the eggshell powder, also called cascarilla powder or cascarilla chalk. I think I pronounced that correct. So that's kind of got the duality of the life and death, rebirth, that kind of cyclical aspect to it, but it's often applied to the body for protection, and any types of magical warding. Like I use that with a mixture of other stuff in a lot of my protection jars. And you can it's very easy to make cascarilla powder. It's crushed up eggshells and flour, pretty much. A lot of people use the chalk to draw veves or magical sigils and things like that. Or, you can sprinkle around the home or business for general protection and peace. All right. So moving along, we have elder and elderflower. I use elderflower. Well, also elderberries would be in here as well. I use elderberries in my protection oil, Specifically, elder is for protection from lightning, is one aspect that it can be used for. I don't know that I've ever done any magic for that. I don't really do weather magic per se, but it's got different associations. It can be used for banishing. So if you're doing kind of something banishing something and then kind of closing the door and putting up a wall of protection around it, elderflower, elderberry might be good for that. Excuse me. And there's different areas where you could be doing protection around money, luck, strength, prosperity. It's associated with Astara and Lunasa, the element of water. So, and you can incorporate all these things into how you're using this for protection. And that's the thing I really want to impart here. Again, elder can be used for protection against negativity. So if you're dealing with a lot of self-doubt, negative self-image, dysmorphia, things like that, you can work with any type of elder to kind of help yourself with that, because it does have that healing properties to it. So it's also got the purification and cleansing. So we are doing pretty well there. Let's see. I'm just looking at my list because, as I said, there's over 150. So I'm doing about 50 per video. So buckle up, buttercups. Next is elecamping. And I use that in a lot of our uncrossing and hex breaking, like the bath salts. So it's good for banishing, dispelling anger or violent vibrations. If you have a lot of really negative vibrations, if you experience something, you can put it in a sachet or like a mojo bag or whatever you use for that. Now, one area that it is used for is for baby blessings. So if you want to do protection around childbirth or for a newborn baby, something like that, elecampane is the one for you. Like I said, I use it a lot in the uncrossing and hex breaking kind of stuff. So next up, we have eucalyptus. And eucalyptus, number one, is highly flammable. So keep that in mind. But also, too, there's about 450 different species of eucalyptus out there. So, and they all have slightly different properties, whether you're talking therapeutic. In general, eucalyptus, I have regular eucalyptus. As far as essential oils go, I usually use eucalyptus radiata or globulus. There are, like I said, probably 450 different types of eucalyptus, and they all have different smells, similar, but again, used for healing, protection, balancing, moon magic. So if you're doing something around a lunar cycle for protection, eucalyptus. It's got a lot of purification properties. It's good for healing, sort of like low, like negative vibrations or energies or things like that. It's really good at sort of dispelling that. Healing rites, banishing negative energies. That's about it for that. It's associated with the moon and Mercury and the element of water. So those are other areas you can work in there. Next up is evening primrose. So evening primrose doesn't really, I haven't seen it in an essential oil. There might be, I think I have a primrose fragrance. I don't know if it's an evening primrose. It's just primrose. But usually I get it, primrose as like a carrier oil. So if you're making a protection oil, you can make it in an evening primrose base. It's just not the cheapest of carrier type oils. It's more of a specialty one. Like I use it a lot in like the Bath and Body oils I make. But it's good for protection, luck. It's good for instilling boundaries, which is a healthy part of protection. You can also use it for psychic protection, intuition, vision. So no one's tampering with that, putting, thoughts in your head or something. So now we move on to the letter F, and we're going to start with fennel first. I don't particularly like the smell of fennel. I do use it in a lot of things. I just don't particularly care for it's just got one of the smells to me that I don't like. And some of these are available in essential oils, sometimes fragrances, sometimes only herbs, sometimes only one of those things. It really depends. Like from what I talked about today, let's see, taking a brief rejoinder. Yeah, out of all the ones I talked about previously, eucalyptus might be the only one that has an essential oil. Fennel, I think, does have an essential oil. I just don't use it. But that is also good. So thinking in terms of protection, so you've got courage, strength, cleansing, vitality, sexual vitality, can be used for domination. It's preventative for curses, possession, and negative problems. So again, that might be something good to put in like a protection bowl or amulet or talisman or anything that you're using. It's got the purification properties. I personally wouldn't burn it. I mean, you could. But also one thing I want to point out here, because in these, there's a lot of things that we use in cooking. So think about, there's a lot of kitchen witchery out there. So you can use with intention, if you're making like a roast chicken and you put all this stuff in it, it can be an offering to the spirits, number one. But number two, you can use it for, this is my, roast protection chicken. But I'm saying chicken and potatoes, make it with a little bit of rosemary, throw in some fennel, a little bit of, what else can we put in there? Maybe some lemon, lemongrass, I'm saying here. You can use some of them in those kinds of ways as well. Or even taking supplements. A lot of these things are available. You can get tinctures, you can get, various health food supplements. So like say turmeric is an easy one there. All right, now returning to fennel. So here's one way, I forget what the source was, says hang over doors with St. John's wort on summer solstice to repel evil spirits. It does have the controlling aspects to it, but again, it's associated with protection amongst other things. And moving along, next is flaxseed. I don't really have any of this on hand, but like flaxseed is something that is used in a lot of prosperity magic, healing, but also protection. So now here's something you can think of. A lot of the eye masks they make for like meditation have flaxseed in them. So you can use things. This is when you have an integrated magical life, you don't always have to be sitting at an altar doing something. It's integrated into everything you're doing anyways. So if you have like an eye pillow, so okay, I tend to sleep with an eye pillow on. I probably look like some kind of Cthulhu beast because I also have my CPAP mask. I want to put little tentacles on it. Very Leviathan vibes. But so I prefer to sleep with an eye mask on because the pressure on my eyes helps me fall asleep eventually. So that's something you can do. You can use that as a base in a jar, throw in some flaxseed, put in your herbs, some crystals, yakety schmackety, and there's your protection jar. It is also, in addition to money, it's good for beauty and psychic development and power. So if you want protection around those, flaxseed. And there weren't a whole lot in F. So now we are moving on to the letter G. Well, one brief thing. Four Thieves vinegar would be good for protection. But that's something that is made. And you can make your own Four Thieves vinegar. Don't get me wrong. Put this on my little list here since I'm adding it. Yeah, Four Thieves and Foxglove. So Four Thieves vinegar, you can use it as like a banishing to repel an unwanted person. You can use it to cleanse and consecrate things. It's good for banishing, cleansing negativity, and for protection. So anything that you can use that in there. I sometimes make, I have up since I collect a lot of vintage glass. Hold on, I'll get a visual aid to show you. So I have a lot of vintage glass stuff. So this is just like a little, probably a candy dish or some kind of trinket jar. So I use a lot of stuff like this. I have a lot of pieces on my altar. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll put as an offering when I'm making stuff, like I'll put in like, well, I've got a little extra of this or that. I'm going to put this in my altar. I could put a little bit of oil in there, something. So that's kind of one of the ways that I have to find a place to put this now. There we go. All right. And the other one, I didn't have this on my original list, but foxglove digitalis purpura. Just want to put a big heavy caveat here. It is very toxic. It's beautiful, but it's, if you want to use it for the protection of your home and garden, you could plant it outside. It's also used for underworld workings. Because it is so toxic, I don't even really use it. It doesn't really, I guess, when it comes to, some of the baneful herbs like foxglove, unless you're growing it yourself, it's not always easy to come by, especially like in the bulk quantities I would need. So like one of the things I have, if I need like foxglove energetically, like I have some flower essences. So that's one way I would suggest working with foxglove versus like the plants, since it is so toxic. You can use it to commune with Fae. So back to foxglove. Okay, so here, I just want to talk a little bit. So the reason with foxglove, like what they call the juice from it, or probably nectar, stuff like that, is you shouldn't let it touch the skin. It is very poisonous. Ingesting only 0.5 gram or 0.5 grams of dried or 2 grams of fresh leaf is enough to kill someone. So that's on the ingestion side. It's also very bitter. I don't know about topical. I don't really see, in my travels, I haven't really ever seen it in flying ointments before. Just because some things are very topically caustic, so they would probably cause like really nasty like skin chemical burns on your skin. So what makes foxglove so toxic is the digoxin in it, which is, see, this is where those things with the healing and harming kind of cradle and balance here. Digoxin is actually, I think it might be a slightly different word. It's a medical, it actually was developed into a cardiac medication for certain types of cardiac conditions. So if you have one of those cardiac conditions, the digoxin from foxglove will heal you. Otherwise, if you don't, not so much. So foxglove poisoning causes visual disturbances, wild hallucinations, delirium, drooling, weakness, dilated pupils, tremors, severe abdominal pain, diarrhea, nausea, seizures, as well as heart arrhythmia and abnormal heart rate. It's very unpleasant. And the poison remains potent in the plant regardless of heat or drying. So this is one of those areas too where if you are wild foraging, you really need to know, because one of the things I noted here, I don't know the source, this is just my own personal document I use, that a lot of times people get mistakenly poisoned by foxglove because they mistake it for comfrey. So next would be good old frankincense. It's churchy. So obviously you have a lot of lore around frankincense. I know how to talk. Frankincense. It's like that sanctity, purification, protection, celebration. It's got a very solar energy. It's used as an offering during Beltane, Lunasaw, and Yule and Mabon. Apparently it enhances the power of topaz, which is a crystal. I have no idea where some of this came from. I've been using this document for at least 6 years now. I add to it every now and then. I haven't added to it in a while. So now what in Christianity, what it was used for too is to aid the spirits of the dead to find their way to the light. So if you're doing any kind of underworld workings and want protection there, or you're a medium that kind of guides the deceased souls to the other side. That might be something good to work with or to wear for protection, because spirits of the dead can be really unwieldy. And I'd be willing to bet 90% of the time people think it's a demonic possession. Is actually not. It's used in exorcism. I mean, it's very versatile as far as what you can use it for. So now we're into the letter G, and we have galangal root. I use this one a fair amount. So I use it a lot in the hex breaking, uncrossing aspect, which there are, protection elements there. It's said to carry for protection. So again, if you have like a little pouch or bag or something that you have stuff in, that would be a good one. It's also really good. I use it a lot in money magic type, like money oils and things like that. So if you're looking at protecting your money, galangal root might be the way to go. Again, it's used for healing. You've got the curse removal, hex breaking. It's also good for sex magic and lust. Let's see. That's interesting. Apparently, galangal root is considered a twisting herb. Interesting. Okay, I now know what I use galangal root for based on this. It's used in my confusion powder and probably the oil. It says, so galangal root can cause the opposite effect to show in other herbs in a formula. It is a twisting herb, so it can affect, like the confusion powder, at least, I'm not sure about the oil, I use a lot of lavender in it. So where the galangal root combined with lavender is that, while lavender is something calming and peaceful and serene, it's not bringing it's preventing the lavender from bringing that. It's almost like making the pleasant smell of lavender seem like everything's hunky dory when it is not. So that's why it's used in, like, I use it in the confusion powder and probably oil as well. It can be burned to break the curses cast by sorcerers. You can use it. I use it. It's a good one to use in like a breakup oil or separation oil. So I use it for that as well. And where are we next? Next is garlic. So vampires. I don't always only mean literal vampires. I also mean like energy vampires, psychic vampire protection. Like, I'm very prone to getting like vampiric attachments. Not that someone's like, I want to suck your blood. It's more like people's energy kind of, you develop those kind of vampiric energy cords. So it can be used for that, for protection from that sort of thing. So I use it in like, I use garlic in the Four Thieves. I use it in the vampiric energy protection spray I make. It's also good for anti-theft, purification, protect against, as I mentioned, psychic and also physical vampirism. I think I mentioned that at the beginning. Exorcism, spell breaking, protection, strength, all that good stuff. So that would be garlic. I use the minced garlic, like the chopped garlic, dried in the stuff. I don't use a lot of powders unless I have to. I mean, I use garlic in cooking. So next time you make some garlic bread, just infuse it with, your intention to avoid getting psychic and energy vampiric attachments. Anywho, I like to add a little bit of humor to this because this is very dry. Next up, we have geranium. I tend to use the essential oil for geranium. Like, there's some stuff that you really can't find it. Like, unless you grow gardens and pull it out, dry it yourself, that kind of thing. My grandmother always had geraniums. They are good for protection, love, healing, courage, fertility, astral work, protection against snakes, peace and hex breaking. It's associated with Venus. It dispels apprehension and negativity. It balances sort of the yin yang of, masculine and feminine energies. That's for how. So overall, geranium has a lot of positive aspects to it. I do use it. I don't use it a whole lot because the smell is kind of strong. I like rose geranium a lot, actually. That's an essential oil I use. I use that a lot in like the Come To Me products. But yeah, regular geranium, I think that's also in the vampiric uh the vampiric energy protection spray, and I use it in some of the healing stuff like the spiritual and emotional healing products. So next up is ginger. That you can also get an essential oil and like the root, or you can get it raw if you want. Because again, you can use ginger in your everyday cooking. So that's good for magical energy, physical energy, courage. It's one of the ones that's like a booster to rituals and spells. So there's certain, like, that's kind of, I forget if it's in it, but that's like the witch's magic power ritual oil I have. On its own, it kind of doesn't really, it's meant to be like an amplifier. Like if you really want to amplify, there's certain herbs and stuff that I have in there that are for that process of amplifying whatever else you're working on, regardless of what it is. So if you want to amplify a love spell, you want to amplify a curse, the witch's magic power oil that I created would work well for that. So you've got a lot of money and finance power to use to consecrate. Athames and ritual blades. It's good for self-awareness. It's a stimulating herb. That's one of the things I remember, because it does have a lot of therapeutic things. Like to me, I actually to this day cannot drink ginger ale unless I'm nauseous, because I have such a strong association with ginger, of being given ginger ale as a child when I was like had an upset tummy. So it makes me nauseous because I'm like, as a child, it's just like, if you're having ginger, you're nauseous. So if I'm not nauseous and I'm having ginger, I will be nauseous soon. But that's one of the things that it's good for on the therapeutic side is digestive issues, nausea, that kind of thing. It's also a powerful aphrodisiac. So with ginger, you've got a lot of dualities on the money and love aspect of it, healing. So you can use protection around all of that. You can use it to protect your magical work that you're working on. Like if you don't want anyone to like, or you want to have an extra layer of making sure no one is return to sendering your thing or you're getting any blowback, ginger might be good to work with for that. And now we are moving on to the letter H. And just to add here, this is by no means an exhaustive list. I've added as much as I can to it to give enough variety and stuff for, give you numerous ideas and things like that, so you can make your practice super awesome. So next up, we have hawthorn. Also, while not an herb, you can. Some of these actually might be on the bottom. Actually, graveyard dirt is a good one. As I'm just scrolling through my list, that can be used for protection. So moving on to hawthorn, we have that is good for protection, marital happiness, fertility, psychic protection. Also used in fairy magic. Fishing magic, I don't know what that is, but I don't go fishing, so I don't know. I guess there's magic in everything. Good for concealing magic, repels ghosts and evil spirits, good for banishing, brings victory over rivals. I have to use it for that more. Protects marriage from infidelity. So if that's something, we all have different lives, no shame. If that's something you need to, bolster, hawthorn. I use hawthorn berries a lot and things. I use them in a lot of the healing oils. You use it for defense. Yeah, it's definitely associated with the fae. What else do I use it in? I don't know. I'd have to look. So who's next? Heather flowers. Heather flowers are super tiny. Super tiny. They don't have a lot of aroma to it, but that one's good with new beginnings, So think of like in new beginnings, like I just got divorced. I'm free. I'm, free, moving on, looking for another, whether you are healing, whether you're looking for another partner, that's something you can work with Heather for, around protection around that. Self-discovery. So again, you're healing, glamour magic, bringing peaceful resolutions, also good for initiations. So all these things, think about how you would want to use that in terms of protection, or in ways that you would that other people would use white sage. Like I feel like white sage gets pigeonholed as like the only thing you can use for this, and sorry, it's not. It's probably my least favorite thing. I just don't like the smell of it. Like I'm an herbalist. Look, I've got things I love working with, and I got things I'm like. So keeping Heather around the house will attract friendly spirits and bring peace. So again, make those little protection jars, put some Heather in it. So it's something it's bringing like good energy and good luck into your life, and also attracts the fae. Keep that in mind. It's good in summoning spirits and stuff. And it can also be used in rain spells, which I do not need to do because all it fucking does is rain anymore around here. I need a sip of something. Hold up. Oh, we forgot one. Oh, you know what? I think I put those on the back end of it. That's probably why. Never mind. Okay. Adding that, I think what I ended up doing was separating out some of the things like the toxic plants and other things that are also good for protection. I think I'm going to do that's kind of at the end. So I'm like, why isn't this on here? All right. Next up is holly. So holly is used in like, say, marriage proposals. That's one of the things I think I use is the magic, the marriage proposal spell powder is I think the only thing I use it because it's really hard to work with. It's good for protection, luck, business dreams, animal magic, working with animal familiars, astral animals, anti-lightning, but also for dream magic. So that's again something you could use like to protect you from the astral realm. And then next up is honeysuckle. So I love honeysuckle. It's one of my favorite smells. My one grandmother used to have honeysuckle bushes in the yard. So honeysuckle again I use that a lot. I use actually honeysuckle a lot. I use it in cord cutting. I use it in some of the wealth stuff, but it's good for prosperity, growth, strength. It's got the marriage element to it as well. So relationships, psychic dreams, and awareness. It's one of those ones that to sweeten. I think I use it in the love sweetening oil. Like if there's a situation that's kind of a little like tenuous or there's a lot of strife, like sometimes it can be used to sweeten it. So when we talk about like love sweetening, it's like if you're on the rocks or going through a rough patch, the love sweetening can kind of pull in some good energy in there. So it's protection. So we've got awakening sexuality, releasing blocks in that area, luck, letting go, endings and beginnings. That's why I use it in the cord cutting, prosperity, weight loss, psychic powers, all that good stuff. So this one I use a lot in various hyssop. So I use that a lot in like uncrossing, hex breaking, protection, anything kind of in that rubric. I use it a lot. But it's got the purification, protection elements. It kind of balances, whether you would call it vibrations or energies. It's used for cleansing and purification and consecration. It's good for banishing. spiritual and aura cleansing. So yeah, forgiveness is another one it can be used for. So anything in those areas are good. Can cross over into using it for something protective around those areas. So we only have one each in I and J, and then we move on to 2 and K, and then we're on to L for a while. So next up is ivy, and that can be any kind of ground ivy. Do not use poison ivy. I mean, you could use poison ivy, just carefully so you don't give yourself poison ivy if you wanted to curse someone and give them a bad rash, I guess. Again, ivy is used a lot in like marriage proposal kind of spells, healing, fertility, love, fidelity. So anything in that realm that you want protection around would be great. Business success, divination. This isn't, again, with some of these that are, plants you can go out and buy. You can plant ivy around your house or get a plant hanging basket. And that's going to repel negative influences and also discourage unwanted guests. So if you don't want the Jehovah's Witnesses knocking at your door, maybe get some ivy and a Hail Satan sign. A lot of times it was used in a sachet for a wedding gift to provide protection to a newly married couple. So, yeah, it's pretty. That's interesting. I do like. I like the lore. Like I like how different things to learn how things were used, because sometimes you don't think about that, like what we know about herbs versus like with what is in their like medicinally therapeutic, what is in that realm, because sometimes there are crossovers for things, and then how they're used in different areas of magic. So next up is juniper. I use juniper berry, and I also use juniper berry powder because juniper berries are really hard to grind up. Even with my industrial grinder, they're really hard. They just get kind of chewed up and look gnarly. So again, cleansing, purification, protection against accidents. So if you're doing like a little car kind of protection, that would be a good one for that. It's protection against illness, love, fertility. It's anti-theft, exorcism, psychic abilities, banishment. Juniper is very versatile. Also good for vivid dreams, dispelling negative energies and entities. Crystal cleansing helps in concentration and like grounding and centering. So those are all really good areas to use that. I use juniper sometimes in money stuff, like fast luck. I use juniper in that a lot. Kava root is sedative and euphoric for meditative states. A lot of people use it like teas or supplements for kava. You just have to be careful because it can cause liver damage. I forget if it's like the certain part of the plant or how it's processed, but typically it's a root. So it's good for meditative states, channeling, divination, astral travel, and dream work. So again, if you want some protection around that, kava. I don't know if I have this one on here. Oh, yes, I do. Clipdaga, which is also called lion's ear, not lion's mane or lion's tail. I think it's lion's ear. That was lion's tail. It's a lot of like folk nicknames for things. Clipdaga, it's Leonidas nepitifolia. That one I use a lot sometimes in our flying ointments because it's got those like entheogenic properties to it. But it's also good for protection spells, repels snakes. It's good for visions, trance states, hypnotic, euphoria. Apparently, the herb is reputed to endow men with the positive qualities of a lion. Wink, wink, sexual prowess, if you know what I mean. So the dried leaves and flowers have a mild calming effect when smoked. In some users, the effects have been noted to be similar to a THC. found in cannabis, but except that it has a much less potent high. So it gives you a little bit of the euphoric effect there. And now we are on to the letter L, and I am going to wrap up. Well, I did 50 the first, around 50-ish the first one, so I will probably wrap up around the letter O, because there's a lot of P. O or P is probably where I'll wrap up. So we're getting there. Lavender. So we talked about lavender a little bit before, but that's in addition to protection, harmony, love, purification, healing, peace, tranquility. It's good for protection of children, marriage. It's very healing, can be used for grief and guilt. Also good for clairvoyance, vivid dreams, aura cleansing. Used in love spells a lot, associated with the element of air, sometimes used with ancestor work. Can also be used as warding, so think about those types of protections. It's associated with the third eye and crown chakra. So that's sometimes used for spirit communication because it has a very, very mild entheogenic effect that helps aid in like spirit communication and dream work or astral travel. Lemon can be used for protection. I use it kind of in combo with like for banishing stuff. So, or souring. Think of like you know how there's sort of the lemon curse thing, but think of like souring. You really want to sour a relationship or something. So I will dump a whole ass thing of lemon juice in like curse jars. So but again, it can be used for protection, happiness, health, purification, love, healing. It can also be used. So again, we have that duality where I said it can also be used for curses and hexing. So that's why I would use it for banishing as well. Who is next? Lemongrass. I use lemongrass a lot. Again, in a lot of our uncrossing and hex breaking stuff. So that, which is a form of protection. So, it is what it is. Another one for repelling snakes. I don't know what source that was from, but apparently they needed to repel a lot of snakes. Psychic cleansing. It's good for banishing, purification, to clear out psychic channels, psychic awareness, clairvoyance, mediumship. It's good for road opener. That's the other thing I use it in a lot. Open up those roads. So if you could also use it to kind of do a combined road opener / protection spell. So, because sometimes we need to move things out of the way and get out in order to be protected. I feel that way a lot about Philadelphia. Lemongrass can also be used in like separation or breakup spells. So it's another way. It's often planted or around people's houses or gardens to repel snakes. So that's an interesting use for it. Lilacs are next. I have some dried lilac. That's another one that's not easy to come by unless someone grows lilac in their backyard, which might be the easiest way to get it. And there is a lilac like absolute or CO2. I think it's a CO2 distillate, but like for a tiny 5 ml bottle, it's solid, but it's like probably like $250. It's ridiculous. So if I'm using lilac, chances are I'm using the fragrance because it just isn't available otherwise. So protection, banishment, beauty. So say glamour magic, love, purification, psychic abilities, divination, creativity, reincarnation, harmony, happiness. It's good for familiars and astral animals. So if you want to do some protection around your familiars, that'll be a good way. Lilies. Now there's different types of lilies. This is just sort of broad lily. So I sometimes use common lily. Sometimes I have some lily of the valley, just like the leaves from it. But lily of the valley is also very toxic to cats. So I tend not to have a lot of lily stuff around. Again, that one I think is only available in fragrance oil. I don't think there's a lily essential oil, because not everything produces essential oils, or sometimes they do, and then they're stupidly expensive. So it's just easier to use the fragrance. So protection, can keep away unwanted visitors, spirits, negativity, and curses, and well with that. It can be used to carry. What else? It's good for divination, contacting spirit guides and angels, aiding in communication with deities, fertility, rebirth, marriage, happiness, prosperity, emotional healing, strength, harmony. Some types of lilies, so I was looking at the safety here. Some types of lilies are poisonous to humans too. Most lilies are fine to be touched as long as they're not ingested. The sap is, you shouldn't touch the sap though. I am a safety nut when it comes to stuff. So most of it, like for people, it's gonna cause some skin. The sap will cause irritation and stuff. And Lily of the Valley has a lot of the similar. So Lily of the Valley, it says, contains cardiac glycosides, which can cause headaches, nausea, cardiac symptoms, and heart failure in high doses, noting that the berries are also toxic. So next is linden blossom. I have seen the herb for that. I have the essential oil, I think, for it. So that's associated with love, obviously protection, good fortune, luck, sleep. Says hang branches over the door for protection or to grow in the garden. So again, thinking about, like, if you live in a house, now obviously it's a little different. Like I rent, so I live in an HOA, so there's not a whole lot I can do there. Like granted, I could have like some flower pots or plants around, but if you're thinking about having a magical garden, plant a linden tree in there, and thinking about those things that you could strategically do for to have put a protective barrier in your life. Let's see. I did not put that one on here. Liquid amber, which is also called storax or styrax, is a very gooey resinous essential oil. I think you can get like the resin pellets for it as well, but that's one that is good for healing, grounding, and protection as well. It's also associated with a lot of different spirits. Like I know in a lot of the Goetic spirits and Ducante hierarchy, liquid amber / storax is one that is used a lot. I think I covered Blue Lotus already. That is good for protection. I'd have to watch the first video. I don't know. What am I looking for? Lovage is the next one. No, lovage is not. Low John. I was wrong. I think that is called Beth. Okay. So the next one on here, I put lovage instead, but it's actually Low John root. So now you have like John the Conqueror root or High John the Conqueror. This one's called Low John, or also Beth root. I think I use that in some of the money stuff, but money, love, protection, curse breaking is also good. So this is one that would be good for court cases, hex and curse breaking, very powerful for love and passion work. Sometimes galangal root is also referred to as Low John root, but they have different Low John root's botanical name is Trillium pendulum. This is where knowing the botanical names, or at least being familiar with them. I'm just looking up galangal root. So this is where, like, at least having some familiarity with the scientific name, the Latin name, the botanical name, it's all interchangeable for that. Galangal root is There's two different types. There's Alpinia, galanga, and Alpinia officinarum. There's a couple different types of galangal, but I think the one that I have is Camperferia galangal. So entirely different name. So when someone says like, "Oh, isn't that the same as?" No, it's not. So what's called Low John root is the Trillium pendulum, or Beth root, I believe, and then galangal has a different. Yeah, Beth root is what it's called. Galangal has a different botanical name. So that's just always good to know because sometimes there's more than one. So now moving on to the Last of Us. Let's see where we go. All right, we'll go up to there. We're going to go up to the peas because we're getting there. On this getting towards the ending of this video, because we're already at an hour. I've been breaking up the videos because no one wants to listen to me talk for 4 hours straight, and I'm starting to also hit the end of my being able to talk in a cohesive manner. I will start speaking gibberish soon. So Majorum, this is another one that it might be in your spice cabinet. So in addition to protection, love, drawing, joy, family, money, health, and peace. Also for revealing dreams. It's good for heart chakra, overcoming fears, gaining perspective, grounding, transitions, protection against thunder and lightning. So again, you can cook with it. Who's next? Master of the Woods, which is also called Woodruff. And that's protection from danger. Doesn't really specify the type of danger, so use it as you'd like. Grant strength and mastery over adversity. Help, it says mix with gravel root. I'm not sure what gravel root is. I'd have to look. For job hunting or employment things. And you can use it to sprink in an adversary's path to gain control over them. Who knows? So next we have everyone's favorite. This is probably, if you're really going to look at replacing like white sage for something, mugwort might be one of the most versatile ones for you to use there. I use it. Oh, I just lost my page. All right. I use mugwort in I prefer mugwort to wormwood. Wormwood's very bitter, and like the smell of it is a little bit much for me. But mugwort's good for like I use it a lot in flying ointments too, so it's really good for like the divination, prophetic dreams, psychic powers, healing. Like if you wanted to hang like a little thing of like, I think they do make like, I've had like the sort of smudging bundles that are mugwort, or smoke cleansing bundles that are just mugwort. Like you could take one of those and hang it above your bed for protection when you're doing things like, astral travel and whatnot. Let's see what else. Love, lust, fertility, consecration, banishment. These are all things it's good for. It's good for cleansing. You can burn it with sandalwood and or wormwood for scrying. Some people use like an infusion in tea. Now, a lot of those, the artemisias are very bitter. So like mugwort can be very bitter as far as that goes. That's why I prefer to use it in like a tincture or like the flying ointments for any kind of psychic work. In China, it is hung over doors to keep evil spirits out. I always find little things like that fascinating. So it's supposed to bring forth protective and benevolent spirits. So that one's a really good multi-purpose / all-purpose herb to have on hand. Mullein, I don't use mullein anymore because I'm allergic to it. It gives me like a rash and like makes me cough for a week. It's got like this little prickly particulate in it. But if you're not allergic to mullein, brings good luck in relationships, some peace and prosperity into a marriage. It's protection against black magic, curses, and other negative energy. Um, it's interesting because this says mullein also helps to keep away demons and instill courage. I forget where the reference to this came from, but also at the same time, mullein is an offering for and a correspondence for many demons. So I don't know. Like I feel like some of these things do come down to whatever your intention is. So if you want to bring the demons and be like, here's some mullein, cool. If you want to be like, go away, demons, mullein, also cool, apparently. It's protections from nightmares and sorcery. So you can put it in a dream pillow to guard against nightmares. Or I couldn't because it would make me like really itchy and rashy, so I probably wouldn't. I would avoid burning it just because like the particulate can be very caustic and cause a lot of coughing. So it was used in ceremonies for the dead. So it was used to cleanse the dead body and prepare it for its transition to the next place. So who is after mullein? We got mustard seed. So there's different types of mustard seed. There's either black mustard seed, there's yellow mustard seed. I don't know if there's any other color mustard seeds. Those are just the ones I have. Oh, I started to make a note and I didn't put any difference there. I tend to use the black mustard seeds more. Those are good for protection, mental powers. Also use it in like confusion spells, fertility, fire, associated with Mars type energy. So it could be used in protection for any of those things. Myrrh, along with our powerhouse of frankincense, honoring the dead and spirit world, purification, healing, protection. It's good for blessing, talismans, charms, and magical tools. So again, any of those things you use for protection, bless it with some myrrh. So it's specifically good for protections on journeys to the spirit realm, rites of passage, new beginnings, letting go, a lot of grief, healing, grounding. It's also good for banishing and exorcism. Underworld workings. So like in ancient times, it was said to, help, the dead to the netherworlds. It's also sacred to Isis, the Egyptian pantheon. And my personal favorite for literally everything is Nag Champa. And that is just a general one that's good for clearing, protection, meditation, creating a sacred space. That's probably one of my favorite scents in the world is Nag Champa. It's good for balancing energies and making everything harmonious. It's a good setting the place. Like I'm getting ready for a ritual. Let's have some Nag Champa burning in the background while we're getting ready, that kind of thing, and getting in the state for it. So the next one is Niuli. That is, I think that's only available in essential oil. It's not, I haven't used it in a long time, but that's a good one for protection, healing, especially around areas of like psychic attachments or anything kind of involving that kind of mindset. Where are we at? Nootka tree. That is also, I've only ever seen it in essential oil. It's not one that's widely used as far as I can tell. But aura cleansing, banishing, clairvoyance, purification, healing, good fortune. It seems to be a good, like, all around one to use, especially for like bad dreams. It says it's used in indigenous sweat lodges to release heavy emotional energies. In that case, they use it with sage and smudge sticks for clearing and cleansing an area. Now you know. I would assume Nootka tree might be sacred to different, so I would look more into that. I just haven't used it in years. I think I used to have a little bit of the essential oil. Oak moss. I use the fragrance for oak moss. There is an essential oil for oak moss. It's very expensive, and also it can be very caustic on the skin. So I tend to use oak moss fragrance as sort of a symbolic just, sort of a symbolic use of it, the same way like I would do with like something that's only available in a synthetic fragrance. But oak moss is luck, money, protection, strength, clairvoyance. I actually use it in a lot of my Lilith stuff, actually. Most of my Lilith products have oak moss in it. And olives. Now in this case, I would use olive oil, as opposed to olives per se. But yeah, so I would use the carrier oil of like an olive oil for that. So prosperity, health, love spells, marriage proposal spells, wisdom, fertility, peace, lust. So it would be a good carrier oil base. I wouldn't, obviously you can't like, burn it. I mean, you could, but why would you want to? Opaponax, and that is Opaponax is a resin. It's also called sweet myrrh. So it's got that. It's oh god, it's got like a very. It smells like a very sweet, like in a sugary pastry kind of way version of myrrh. It's a very sugary kind of myrrh. And that is, protecting magical energy, dream spaces, good for grounding and centering, hex breaking, prosperity, like removing any blockages that might be preventing, healing or protection, things like that. It's protection against negativity and exorcising toxic people, because yes to that. Next up, we're almost there. We're about 5 away from quitting. Next one is orris root, and that comes from iris flowers. And I use that a lot in protection. It's also very commanding herb. So sometimes if you need like some forceful protection, go with the roots. Like anything like orris root and stuff like that are always going to have a much more like, the rooty ones tend to be a little more powerful in that sense. But that would be good for power, fame. It's good for communication, love and romance. It's got aphrodisiac properties, divination. So yeah, and so again, protection around all those things. So like, if you're doing like the fame and power thing, you might want to have some protection around that, because boy howdy, when you start getting noticed, you get the negative attention too, and it's not fun. So the next one I want to talk about a little bit is Palo Santo, just because this is one, and I honestly, I don't know, because it gets similar flack to white sage, as being appropriative, as being sacred. From what I can gather, when this started, people started being like, oh no, it's Palo Santo is cultural appropriation. There was an Ecuadorian practitioner who had done a video, and thanks to the wonderful internet content drift and rot, I have no idea where that video is, but in it she explains that there are hundreds of species of Palo Santo, of which only one is considered sacred. I don't remember if there was I don't remember if there's a specific name for it, but in Ecuador, it is mostly used as a mosquito repellent. So take that as you will and proceed however you would like. There's a lot of people that say, Palo Santo, I won't, I don't use that anymore. And there are some ethical concerns around its cultivation and being an endangered species. It is a protected plant by the country of Ecuador, and there's very, very specific ways in which Palo Santo can be legally harvested. It's not to say that it isn't illegally harvested. That happens a lot with things that become really popular. Like sandalwood, originally most of it came from India, and there was so much illegal harvesting. Like most of sandalwood now comes from Australia as a result. So Palo Santo, it's used to remove curses. It's used for protection and banishing and aura cleansing and bringing a connection to, your spirituality and the spirits you work with. So, going back to, apologies for ADHD, but going back to the harvesting of Palo Santo, the way I wrote a piece on this years ago, but things may have changed since then, but from my knowledge base, the only legal way you can harvest Palo Santo is from branches from trees that have naturally fallen and have been on the ground for 2 years. That is how Palo Santo is harvested. Because it's an endangered species, because it's federally protected by the country of Ecuador, there are a lot of legalities around it, so to protect it. Now I have Palo Santo, and I haven't bought Palo Santo in years because, I mean, Jesus Christ, if I could burn one whole stick of Palo Santo a year, holy crap, that would be like a world record, because it burns really slow and goes out a lot. I do have like a Palo Santo, like I don't know if it's pulverized wood, but it's like a powdered kind of incense, and there are essential oils for it as well. So that's just kind of my spiel on Palo Santo. Next is one of my favorites, and that is our blessed patchouli. So again, a very versatile herb. Patchouli is one of those ones, you either love patchouli or you hate patchouli. There's not a lot of in between there on the patchouli front, but that's good for manifestation magic. It's good for money, fertility, lust, love, attraction, sex, clairvoyance, divination, banishing. I do use it in some baneful stuff too. I think I might use it in like the doom oil. So you can use it for cursing. It's supposedly in black magic is used to sicken an enemy when used in chants and spells. I have no idea. It's got the Saturnian kind of planetary influence on, so it's a very intense oil. It's something that's very got a lot of magnetism in it to draw to you. It can also ward off negativity and evil. I want to make a joke about hippies wearing patchouli, but that is the joke. Hippies don't wear patchouli to cover up anything else. It's to ward off negativity and evil. So it's used a lot for fertility, talismans, banishing, related to the underworld. It's got like, I think of it very, like, as much as I think of it as a Saturnian herb, it's a very earthy herb to me too. It's just got that like earth smell to it. It's that really deep, heavy, the way like vetiver is and stuff like that. That very herbaceous kind of. It's got a little bit of a decay smell to it, like that sweet decay kind of thing. Yeah, it's protection against all negative influences, exhausting situations, shitty people. It's also good for legal aid and justice related stuff. So some people use it and like put a little bit for money stuff, put a little bit in your wallet, or make like a little sachet to carry in your purse. So love me some patchouli. And lastly, I think, oh no, sorry, not lastly. We've got 3 more. We're getting there. We've got peonies, petitgrain, and pine, and then we're stopping because I'm tired. So next, peonies. I use peonies in a lot of stuff I do for Lilith, but peonies are supposed to protect shepherds and their flocks, to ward off storms, demons, and nightmares, and preserve the harvest from danger. I don't know. Lilith likes peonies. So again, sometimes depending on the lore and where it comes from, one book might be telling you, oh, this will repel demons, and another book might be like, oh, Lilith loves peonies, or this is a known correspondence for her. So you're going to run into conflicting stuff on there. Make the best decision, and, you know, because sometimes we all develop personal relationships with these types of herbs and working with them. So something for me that I might hate, like mullein might be a really protective herb, but like I don't like mullein because I'm allergic to it. So if I deigned myself to use mullein, I probably would use it to hex someone. So that's just based on my personal working with it or my associations with it. So it's good for evil eye stuff. protection against that. A lot of nursing and pregnant mothers. Oh, it says pregnant and nursing mothers should not consume peonies. I do have noted associated with Lilith. Protects against misfortune. It's good for health, breaking jinxes, etc. Who's next? Petitgrain. So petitgrain, I think I talked about it earlier. So the bitter orange tree, I think it's is it citrus? Citrus sinensis is sweet. I think it's Citrus aurantium is bitter orange. And from the bitter orange tree, you get three things. You get bitter orange, which is usually in an essential oil. You get neroli, which is orange blossoms. You can get some of the dried blossoms, and you can also get neroli essential oil. And you can get petitgrain essential oil, which is the leaves of the tree. So those three things all come from the same tree. So again, it's used for protection and banishing. I think of petitgrain a lot in terms of like love magic sometimes. Again, I think petitgrain, I think I've only ever, unless you grow bitter orange trees, I've only ever seen it in essential oil. And last but not least, on part 2, we have pine. And that is all species of pine. That also includes amber, which I may have talked about in the first video. Amber essential oil, or if you get amber resin, or amber like the crystal, the type you could get in crystal shops. So this is all species of pine. There are a lot of species of pine. Like I use Scots pine a lot. White pine I like. I forget what other ones there are. Pinyon pine. Oh, pinyon pine I like. That one's good. I have a pinyon. Do I still have an essential? I do have a pinyon pine fragrance. That just has that really great. It's got that like Christmas tree smell to it, the same way like silver fir does. Anyways, pine is used whether you get pine needles, where you get any array of pine essential oil, or amber as well. It's good for banishing, binding, cleansing, purification, healing, clarity, prosperity, protection. This is a very like utilitarian thing. I don't use pine as much as I could. Money magic, consecration, dispelling negative energy, cleaning crystals, protection, fertility, birth, inner strength, understanding, healing, manifestation, road opener. It's good for summoning spirits and elements of the woodlands. So that is pine. I do have some of the pine needles. I do have some of the essential oils. I like pine. I like trees. So again, if you are planting trees here, or you live, out in a more wooded area, you may be surrounded by pines. Communicate with those tree spirits. Ask them for some protection. Anyway, so I'm going to wrap up part 2 here, and wrong one. Let's look at the list. So that takes us up to about 102. So I will go through, I don't have too many. Let's see. So I've got about 26 more on that list. And then, okay, yeah, I did do a breakout for toxic plants, which is where I have like aconite, mandrake, include that on there, datura, belladonna, all that stuff. And then just some other ones that kind of float around, like ambergris, or baking soda, or coffin nails, or milk, or eggshell powder. I think I did talk about the cascarilla already. And Four Thieves vinegar I already talked about. I did briefly mention graveyard dirt, but I didn't really go into it fully. And that is that. So until next time, thank you for watching. Don't forget to click like and subscribe. Be sure to follow us on social media. Sign up for our e-newsletter so you always know what's going on with us. So love you all. Bye. I have no idea why I do that high-pitched bye at the end. Anyways, bye.